I make a choice. So what do you think is the right approach? Which should be the starting point for choosing a career? The inside out approach or the outside in approach? Can we have some observations on this? Rushda, are you there?
Yes, sir.
What do you feel about this?
So I believe that both of them are actually interconnected. Like, for example, if I have seen something run in my family, then automatically that something can interest me. So the second approach, which is inside out approach, that builds in me because I have a particular interest for that thing.
Arshi, what do you think about it? I will request you to please switch on your video when you speak. Okay? Arshi, are you there? Arshi Moin? Sayyid Misam Abbas?
Yes, sir. Sir, I think the
Please
inside
switch
of
on your video.
yes, yes. Just a moment. Am I visible? Yeah. Uh, sir, I think the inside out approach is guided. It is sort of a belief that certain sort of inner strengths and capabilities of the organization as such. And when we're just talking about the outside approach, then I think this is actually guided by a belief that certain sort of like customer value satisfactions and orientation experiences are the certain sort of keys to success.
Which approach makes better sense to you?
So I think the outside in approach does the better.
When we choose our career, like for example, we have taken a career decision to get into MBA. So what do we do with this MBA? Do we serve someone else's agenda or we carve out our own path? What happens? What is the right approach?
Uh, well, sir, I think we are basically carving out our own path in the sense like we uh, we do not. But at this before before just making a decision about joining a course like an MBA, we do not know as such that what career path we have to follow. Instead, we just took our time to actually think upon that what could be the best possible career path for us, and we actually then afterwards also we just make our decisions about a career path also.
Actually, what is happening is that there are two things which are happening simultaneously, both at the outside level as also at the inside level. At the outside level, do you think the kind of world in which we live in is now a very stable kind of world? The kind of world, for example, I inherited when I uh, finished my education. So, whether you like it or not, the world has become a very turbulent world on many accounts, be it politics, be it health. This pandemic has actually created a entire paradigm shift. So there are certain very prominent kind of sectors that have gone down, and there are certain sectors which have come up as a result of pandemic. In fact, most of the sectors have suffered during the pandemic, but nevertheless, some have come out also. Then the world's problems overall, if you look at it, they have reached a stage where, we cannot wish them away. Major being the health problems. The rate at which people are now losing their lives, that has never happened earlier. So overall, if you look at the problems of the world presently, or the problems of the problems created by pandemic, and even earlier also, overall the problem of livelihoods, whether it is problem of livelihoods or education or aggression in the world, terrorism, people of both terrorism of both kind, the soft and the hard kind. So the desire to dominate has grown manifold. People want to get into a situation where they call the shots all the time. And there is a particular, kind of hegemony that has developed for one reason or the other. And there is an all-out effort to protect that hegemony. So overall, if you look at the world, whether it is political kind of environment we are talking about, or health issues, or economic, basic livelihood related issues, the world's problems have reached to a critical mass. And that is one of the author calls it the external alarm which is ringing. And this external alarm is ringing really hard, loud. That if we do not address world's problems, there is going to be an explosion. For example, poverty. You have seen wherever you are presently, during the lockdown, when people used to go out for their life, for getting the basic necessities of life. The kind of beggary that we used to witness, I mean, it is scary. So if they do not, get the basic necessities of life, till what time they can tolerate that or will bear with that? Ultimately, this may also get channelized into aggression. As they say, poverty anywhere is a threat to prosperity everywhere. So people who think that they are prosperous, they can live in a 27-story house, story house, and they have their security around them. Can that security really protect them if there is all round, poverty? People are struggling for getting a square day's meal. So the external alarm is ringing loud, and if we ignore it, there is going to be a serious problem for all of us. The second thing which is happening in the world is what we call the internal alarm. What is that internal alarm? People have a desire to express themselves, and often the employment situations, the job situation, doesn't provide them enough scope to express their creativity. In fact, job has become just a means of earning livelihood, and people are losing meaning in their jobs. We have been doing, Dr. Faraz has also done some work on midlife career stress. I have also tried to assess the stress level in number of occupations and employments. And what I note is that stress overall is rising in the organized employment. So that means people are not finding their jobs meaningful enough where they can fully utilize their potential. So both the alarms are actually ringing. The external alarm, the world's problems have also reached a critical mass, and our own, the meaning that we want to draw out from our engagement and economic engagement, that also has reached a critical mass. So each one of you will have to think about this. What kind of needs of the world I can cater to? What are my unique capabilities which can be leveraged to solve some problem of the world? Only that is the source of drawing meaning out of a life. So Aristotle long back said this, that where our unique needs, our unique capabilities meet the needs of the world, there lies our occupation or vocation. So this is what I mean is the core issue which we have to address, each one of us. What are the critical problems that actually bother you? Do you have unique capabilities to address those needs? So Dr. Faraz, if you can run that PPT for a while, which actually elaborates these ideas only, which I have just now discussed. So how can we make a successful career? Yes, through MBA we can serve other person's agendas, or we can discover our own purpose. As they say, manage your destiny or someone else will. And education actually means to draw out. So if we can use this 2 years to draw out what is inside us, that can give us true meaningful career option. Next, please. So I've told you about this internal problem, and I told you about the stress people are faced with, because generally what happens is they go to work because they have to, not because they want to. Organized jobs have just become a source of earning livelihood for the family. So what we call the Monday morning syndrome, where you again feel after the weekend that I have to go to work. The work has really become work. So if we ignore this, and if we continue working because we have to work, what will be the impact of it? It will have its impact on our self-esteem, on our health, and naturally on our, mental health also, which includes the spiritual well-being. So the kind of problems that we are witnessing again in the organized employment, especially related to hypertension, especially related to uh, diabetes, these have become major risk factors, and mostly this is because of one of the major reason is because of unhappiness at work. Apologies. So then I have talked to you about the external alarm also, that the world's problems have reached a critical point. So only those who find out a way to serve and address some of these world's problems, that only can provide us genuine happiness. So next, for us, can we move? So what are the implications of these two alarms which I talked about? We call it the wake-up calls. So desire to express, that is, we want to really use our creative abilities, our unique capabilities. And there is a desire to serve also, which I note in many of the write-ups which I've read. And these desires, like for example, doing something for the education of my region. Suppose you feel that people are not getting the right kind of education or some skill-based education. So if we have this capability of self-expression, it makes our life spontaneous as also joyful. And if we have this desire to serve others, that gives us meaning and purpose. So I shared with you this quote of Aristotle on careers or career planning, where your talent and needs of the world meet, there lies your vocation. So can we assess our unique talents, and do we know what are the specific needs of the world which can be solved or which can be addressed through those unique talents that we have? So this is the actually the core of the career planning. Next, please. Now, there is some idea which we need to have for the kind of new work environment which we are in now. This is for sure that it has become less secure and more demanding. Even in sectors where, like for example, in education, earlier we used to feel that the jobs of university teachers is a very secure job. Yes, it is for some oldies like me. For example, many of us joined this, and this was a family tradition that the job in the education sector gives you security beyond the job also. You are entitled for pensions and all that. In fact, many of our teachers uh, lived longer by the grace of Almighty. And in fact, the number of years for which they received pension was more than the number of years they served. In fact, one of my professor passed away at a ripe age of 94. So he served for 30 years and he got pension for 34 years. But now this is not the new pension scheme that has come out. It is simple. You contribute, the state will contribute a part of it, and ultimately there is no secure pension at the end of it. It depends on your own savings. Then, how it has become more demanding. It has become demanding in terms of the, for example, especially for people like us, technology has become a crucial ingredient. So your older skills, your judgments and all, many of the decisions are now data driven. So we have IT, use of IT for which is employed for making decisions. We have artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, data mining, and all those. Now, these are words which are new for people like us. But for example, I'm also asked to deliver content online now. I'm typically a chalk and board kind of teacher. That is what I have been groomed for 30 years. All of a sudden, I'm told that now you have to deliver your content using online mode. So you have to learn new skills. So, in earlier in just the point which I have mentioned slightly in a lighter vein, just showing up was enough actually in many of the jobs. In registrar office, when we would go and want to meet a person for some work, people would say, हाँ इनका कोट तो रखा हुआ है कुर्सी पे. So people would come and hang their coats and would go away. So that coat was good enough indicator कि आए तो हैं दफ्तर. But now what we are witnessing is that your performance is being monitored far more closely than earlier. Somebody told me about judiciary, for example. We thought that judges are immune to all such things and they are protected. But ever since this, all the judgments are being put on the net, there is a vetting going on both in terms of the quality of judgment and the number of judgments that they deliver. They are being assessed very, very specifically. And in fact, based on that only the promotion is taking place. So whether somebody would end up as a ADJ in a lower court or somebody would climb as the judge of the Supreme Court, all depends on the productivity, your performance, quantitative as also qualitative. So this is the new reality actually. So actually in the present day world, not taking risks is perhaps the biggest risk. And I was very happy that some of you have this temperament and many of you will have to develop that temperament to start taking risks. Somebody talked about comfort zone. Get out of the comfort zone. So what specifically can we do? Let us now come to specifics. What specifically we can do? Yes, these are also some of the, we can look at them as challenges or we can look at them as opportunity. For example, one of the biggest opportunity now is this internet, www. You may be sitting in the smallest part of a country, but you are connected to the entire world through that. People are managing their supply chains from remotest of locations. You know how these food chains operate, for example. They don't own a restaurant. They don't own. They just have a platform. The delivery boys are also on contract. And so all these options through which people have become aggregators, be it Ola, be it Swiggy, Zomato, they are all, possible. These new carriers are possible because of this www. Then we are also noticing this that earlier there was a lot of premium on working in big cities. Most of my batchmates, they headed for either Delhi or Bombay. Most of them into Delhi because there was a kind of they'll enjoy life. But now we have come to a phase where people are getting fed up with that kind of life, where you have to spend 4 hours, 5 hours on commuting only. So out of the 24 hours that you have, if your 5 hours or 4 hours are wasted in commuting, then how long you can live up to that kind of hardship? So actually we are into, if you look at it positively, we are into a very, very exciting period. And I found this expression very beautiful, which is pregnant with possibilities. So now let us come to the specifics. How do we address our own unique situation, and what kind of initiative we can take which can help us test ourselves and test our limits, as they call it, and draw a roadmap for our career. First thing is we need to understand ourselves first. That's the core. What would interest me genuinely? Because this has been my experience. Knowing something theoretically or intellectually is very different from trying it out in the real world. For example, teaching may be very sought after career. For example, at least 20 of you are aspiring to be teachers. But many of us who get into this profession, they realize that this is a very boring profession. Each year you are teaching almost the same subject again and again. So when a teacher went for an interview and the vice chancellor asked him how many years of experience you have, and he said, I have 20 years of experience. So vice chancellor jokingly said, no, you have 1 year's experience repeated 20 times. So I mean, this could be one approach of looking at this career. And in fact, in most of the organizations, trust me, 90% of the job is routine job. So after some period of time, when you get into the routine, it gets boring. So if you are a creative kind who wants to try out new ideas, because ultimately the organization has to do its routine job. It has to deliver to customers, for example. And there's a set process. For example, we have a plant here in our own vicinity, Heinz, which was earlier Glaxo. Now, milk is to be collected, for example, 2 times a day. It has to be done. Now, what is funny or what is exciting in this? There's no fun actually. It is a drudgery. So, how do we make a choice? How do we test our ideas? What do you think, Waris, could be some of the approaches we can have for testing the waters, as they call it? Yes, Waris. Waris, we are not able to listen to you. Some problem. Anybody else would like to comment? We'll come back to you, Waris. Waqas?
Audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible.
Sir, I think regarding teaching, that you were saying that it's monotonous, it gets monotonous after a time. But then I think also that as a teacher, as a faculty, you have new batch every year. So that is something new. And then you have also know the outcomes of the previous batch and what went wrong, not that great. What were the learning outcomes of the students? Like, and every year there is something new regarding your topic, and some research is going on, something is going on. So it's not I don't think it's really monotonous until unless you are not interested. Until unless you are just doing for the sake of doing it, for sake of earning. And in that case, sir, every job is monotonous.
Waqas, you are hitting the point straight. This is my core. This I'm not saying I'm not interested in the job. I enjoy it, but many of us lose our interest. So if you ask 100 teachers of the university, only maybe 20% of them would say that we are excited. 80% of them would say very boring.
Maybe
Is
they
it
did not consider it right.
Huh?
It's about their career aspirations, what they want from themselves. I think, sir, they may have, sir, miscalculated that part. If I want to impart teaching, sir, I believe that education is the best weapon that I can use to transform this, and this is my forte. So I won't be here get bored from it, from doing it again and again. Someone are interested in playing video games, like it doesn't bore them. It might bore them who is like forced to play the video game. Same goes for everything, listening music or any hobby or any interest.
Let us talk about teaching only. Is it not a good idea, let us say, to go out, volunteer, and teach in one of the, let us say, less privileged school? I remember Dr. Faraz got 20 odd volunteers from one of his batch, and they went to teach in Madarsa Chacha Nehru, located in Bambola region. It was just voluntary work. And that's a far better way to test whether you actually enjoy teaching than to get into a profession and realize later that this is not for me. This is my point. There are opportunities for testing the waters. Do we take those initiatives? This is my point. And I was very happy when I read this in one of the write-ups. Somebody wants to get into supply chain and has already got 1 month's internship in a company where he had an occasion to see for himself how supply chain works. So are we taking such initiatives? That is my concern. So somebody, for example, whose father is a farmer and has worked in the field, and he makes it a point to assist his father while he works in the field. Is it not a good way to actually test the water? Is it not a drudgery? Sowing the same kind of seeds each year, getting into same kind of crops each year. So what can be said about teaching? It applies to every profession, every economic activity. If you look at it from one perspective, it is a drudgery. But if you look at it from other perspective, you can have creative expression through that. And I was talking about the problems of the world. You know, India has set an example for the world for agro-based commodities. And I'm especially talking about one success story of India, that is our white revolution. You know about Amul cooperatives? What is the core? The core of Amul's idea is that for perishable commodities, individual farmer is simply inadequate to deal with those uncertainties. Somebody has to come forward and organize. Dr. Varghese Kurian came forward and organized the cooperatives. The farmer's concern is to bring the milk to the collection point. That's all. Then he forgets. And from there, the supply chain takes over. But the entire supply chain operates on a very, very noble principle. And that noble principle is 80% of the earning should go back to the farmer who has produced that milk. Rest 20% is good enough to manage the entire supply chain. And don't you think that if this model is applied to host of other agricultural commodities, the kind of agricultural distress that we have in this country can be addressed? Who benefits from the efforts of the farmers in this country or elsewhere also? I have seen, growers selling mangoes at 3 rupees a kg in a distress sale in a mandi, because he has already invested in the truck, he has paid the transport charges. There is no way to bring it back from the mandi, because by the time it would come back, it would be rotten. So people sell their agricultural commodities just to recover their transportation cost at times. Now, is it not a huge enough problem for us to tackle? And we have a live working model which has already done it for the country.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So, with context to the teachers, how dynamic do you think is that? Like, if the person learns that they don't want to get in teaching, so how dynamic would it be for them to change it at a very late stage?
That is what I am saying. Some of the career decisions become irreversible. You can't change them after some period of time, because the switching cost may be too high. For example, by the time you may already have a family, and the risk associated may increase manifold. But I feel so, fortunate, in fact, envious of people of your age, because you can take all the risk in the world. Because the cost of losing is not very high. It's only a learning. That is why I am making this exhortation that why can't we, even during this course of MBA program, learn to take those risks. Work on the ideas which you already have. Dr. Faraz was sharing with me that in your entrepreneurship group, you have already formed 28 odd groups, and you are working on ideas. And I wish that we hasten that process. You may finally not get into entrepreneurship. No issues. We have no problem with that. But it will give you a, in fact, when you approach a organized employer also and you say that these are the initiatives I have taken, it will have lot of CV value. It will have something concrete on your CV that yes, here is a person who takes initiatives, who is a self-started, who is not, who is not one who needs a push from outside to get going. So this is my request to all of you. When you get into your careers, this is the right time to try out the ideas. And the world's problem have reached the critical mass. You all have data, for example, about suicide rates amongst farmers. Why somebody would lose such a precious thing as life? And can't you do anything about it? And I would actually wish that some of you read the initiative Farm Veda. Faraz, can you put it on the chat box? There's an initiative which has been taken by a professor from IIM Bangalore, and he has floated this organization Farm Veda, which is trying to replicate this Amul's model for other agricultural commodities. And it's a very social entrepreneurship model. And many of you, especially those of you who have some connect with the agriculture, it would be a very beautiful idea. Or some of you who have an interest in supply chains. In fact, we could not take it up because of your exams. We got an offer from the CEO of Farm Veda. Can you organize a team and do something for the mangoes grown in southern India, and can we sell them in the northern India in your belt? Somebody has to manage the supply chain. He's already doing it till Bhopal. They said now our target is we should move ahead. In fact, they have already done it for groundnut in Andhra Pradesh. They have evolved a beautiful model for groundnut. And Anantapur, which is the heart of the activity, is a drought affected region. Nothing grows than groundnut in that region because it requires less water. And they have evolved a model whereby the farmers are getting remunerative prices for their groundnut. So my request and exhortation is, it's the best time to take charge of our life. Dr. Faraz, if you want to add something.
I think we already have a very intense discussion and surpassed the time also in this process because it was so intense, and I think everyone was enjoying it. And it's kind of like a very important question for us to understand and reflect on in this point in life, because like someone was, sir has also pointed out that there is always a spade work or drudgery involved in any vocation. And many a times when we choose the vocation, we forget, or in fact, we do not understand that part. And that one, like for example, I'll take this example of teaching. So today, you getting into, say, many of you have given that you want to do PhDs and all these things, and then want to get into teaching profession. So teaching involves, higher education teaching involves a very important element of research, without which you cannot get into a good institute to teach. Now that is a basic part. Now, if say, for example, you don't enjoy research as such, then the chances are you will get stuck into some very mediocre or below mediocre institute for teaching. So you will not enjoy teaching also there. So that is the reality. So so every vocation today involves a part of that spade work, whatever it is. So it is very important to understand and listen to people who have already gone through that journey. That is why these lectures which have been organized for you and all these are very important, because you never know. You may look, it may look like, okay, there's a repetition and all these things are there. It's long lectures and all, but you may pick up something which can help you, which can trigger this reflection in you to understand that every profession involves certain part which needs to be done, whether you like it or not, and then only you will enjoy that rest of it, which you have imagined, for example. And also, right now, what sir has said, that you are at this stage in life where you can experiment and take risks and try to understand these 2 years. This is an opportunity for you. Like for example, in entrepreneurship sessions, you can actually start something of your own and then understand that, okay, whether it is for you or not. This is one experience which you can gain, and in fact, it can add value to your CV in a big way. Then you can also, with your summer internships, or today we have online internships. If say, for example, you are eyeing or you are targeting one particular industry, so you can do an online internship and try to understand that what are the nitty-gritties involved in doing that kind of job. What are the expectations in that kind of job? What are the skills required in that kind of job? So in these 2 years, you can like experiment a bit, and then also you have a formal summer internship. So if you say, for example, you get that idea clear right now or within the next 2 months, then you can build on your summer internship and target those kind of organizations where that will add value to your career and all. So the earlier you start in this process of reflection and building on those experiences, and like, for example, you may, I don't disagree with the fact that you may have someone in, say, for example, your father who is a farmer, and you want to develop something in the farming. But what I would suggest, that do not start with your father. I would say that go out and some experience at someone else's farm, maybe at some other location, so develop that perspective right now, so that when you come back, you have a different experience, and then you can build upon those things. So this is a chance. So do not get stuck in a place or in a particular way of thinking. Right now, it's an opportunity to experiment, build on your experiences, and then only decide on your career. I think that will give you a better perspective, because changing careers in between, though it is possible, though it can be fun also for some people, they can enjoy that also. But usually what we have seen through our research, it is a stress which people have to undergo in between, when they, like, it's a quarter life stress or midlife stress. Today, this midlife stress is basically becoming more like quarter life stress. So it starts early now. So it's among the young people. So because of the plethora of options we have and the aspiration and achievement gap. So we aspire to become like a CEO, or you aspire to become, say, a big businessman. But in reality, say, for example, God forbid, you are not able to reach that. So there is an aspiration and achievement gap. And the larger this gap is, more is the stress. So try to basically and shorten this gap as much as you can by building on your experiences and checking on those aspirations and checking on your actions also. Said, what are you exactly doing? What it entails to become a successful entrepreneur? Are you exactly doing what it entails to become a successful CEO, say, for example, or a manager? Are you working harder than a person who is in IIM Ahmedabad right now? So then aspire to become a CEO of a company. So I think this is what we have to build upon when we decide on the careers.
Shalif, okay, let us call it a day. Tomorrow you'd like to listen to some of your ideas which you want to try out. Okay.
So it will be kind of an open session. So please think about what you want to try out and how you want to build on those things, and what is your plan of that.
Okay, thank you.